Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Delta State, my brother, my friend, a man that I'm extremely proud of, our traditional rulers, Chairman of PDP, distinguished senators here present, Speaker, House of State Assembly, honorable members of Federal House of Assembly, distinguished private sector leaders, honorable commissioners in the state, Excellency Deputy Governor, as they say in Nigeria, all protocols observed, please. I'd like to start by thanking the Governor of Delta State and his team for two principal reasons. One is, as we celebrate Democracy Day in our country, most people or leaders usually approach it from a political slant, or at times mostly celebratory, because it's Independent Democracy Day. But here in Delta, we have our governor and his team who have thought it wise and feel that instead of just having parties to mark the Democracy Day, that they should do something that I consider extremely catalytic and something that is foundational, which is to organize a forum like this to further bring to the fore the importance of the bottom in our economic endeavor as a people, as a state, and as an economy. So I'd like to commend His Excellency for the vision to decide that instead of making parties, we should be discussing about the micro and small-scale enterprises and how to create a new future for Delta State beyond oil. So, Excellency, congratulations and well done. Second reason is, even from the theme of today's session, it's like planning a new anchor for economic development for Delta State beyond oil. There's what is called a resource cost. Statistically, historically, most states, most countries that have this kind of oil resource hardly ever do well, apart from a few who have broken that cost. And for a governor and his entire leadership at the state level to decide that we need to look inwards to see how we can begin to develop other sectors that will help us remain a viable state post, even beyond oil, I think is extremely, extremely commendable. Most times, we are used to hearing of small-scale enterprises or small-scale and medium enterprises. This is one of the few times, in fact, to me, the only time I'm attending a forum in our shores, in our country, that goes below the small scale to talk of micro. We talk of microfinance everywhere, every time, but this is not just talking about microfinance, it's talking about micro businesses. It is unique, it's different, it is bottom-up entrepreneurship, it's bottom-up economic development, and this is exactly the economic practice that is sustainable. So I think for our people of Delta State, all we need to do is to encourage the state government, the governor and his team to encourage on this path. We need to engage our people. I tell people always that one of the reasons we have crime in societies is because there's no economic hope. Economic hope is best democratized when you take it down. Not many people are able to set up big companies, high-tech companies. But when we begin to give priority and attention and emphasis and focus to the rural, the micro businesses, then we begin to, in my viewpoint, fundamentally address the issue of economic development, issue of crime, issue of unemployment, issue of youth engagement, etc. So I'd like to commend our governor for this and his team. When I got this invitation, I asked myself, beyond looking at the micro, small scale, and medium scale enterprises for data beyond oil, what should one really be talking about? And I thought I should remind us briefly about our history as a state and take it from there and allow today's speakers to help us do more justice to this discussion. First, Delta State, as we all know, is a very rich state, rich in terms of our natural endowments, rich in terms of the caliber of people we produce. In fact, I say to people that Delta produces an inordinate number of human capital for this country. If you look at the private sector, you have a lot of Delta people who have excelled and who are excelling. At no point in time do you have less than 5-6 Delta State indigenes as CEOs of Nigerian banks, for instance. If you look at the top 20 in terms of market capitalization of Nigerian Stock Exchange, at least about 30% of those companies are also run by Delta State indigenes. So from private sector perspective, Delta State has really done so much in terms of human capital development and contribution to this country's development. If you look at the public sector also at federal level, I need not tell you our children who are playing key roles at the federal level. And this is part of a resource endowment in Delta State that we need to be proud of, and we also need to exploit in charting ahead the course for our economic development. In terms of population, we have a population of 4.5 million, and this is not small. Delta at 4.5 million population is bigger than 19 other African countries. So we're not a small, we're a mini country in Nigeria. Now, if you look at the GDP of Nigeria, of Delta State has about $16.8 billion in terms of GDP. Again, compared with other African countries, this is about, it means Delta State is bigger or larger in terms of economic size than about 30 other African countries. So this is not a small state. In terms of geographical location of Delta State, we have a lot of some African countries that are landlocked countries. We have some African countries that don't even have the ports, the sea access, etc. that we have here. So Delta is uniquely positioned to do well as a state. I call Delta a mini Nigeria. We have everything that the country has, or almost everything the country has. And we're bigger in terms of population than some African countries. We're bigger also in terms of size of economy. But we can grow Delta even bigger, and I believe that's why the governor and his team have assembled all of us today to discuss about this tier of our society beyond the oil. But let's look back to where we started from. I like to, in my free time, read history of nations, history of states, etc. And for Delta State, my history recollection tells me that way back to 15 to 1800, 1500 and 1800, between 15 and 1800, we had slavery. So in terms of economic history, Delta as a state has been quite active. But slavery, unfortunately, is not the kind of positive economic activity that we're proud of. But we've had it. Unfortunately, it came with its own scare. It depleted our resources. We will not say it had any positive economic impact, but it was something that occurred in this state at some point in the past. We also had, around the 1990s, early 90s, palm oil trade between Delta and the rest of the world. But in this case, and someone talked about the knife for the palm oil, in this case, more of extraction, more of taking the oil. We're not producing the oil or processing it in Nigeria or in Delta State. And so it was more of taking away and no value is added, because in the production chain, it is that level area sector where you produce, process, that you create value for the local economy. So nothing really happened in terms of economic benefits to us. Then post or from late 90s is advent of oil also from the 90s. And again, that is about extraction and not necessarily adding real value to our local economy. So as we create this kind of forum, as we celebrate democracy, and as the governor calls all of us to a new approach of bottom-up entrepreneurship, I thought it presents to all of us an opportunity as Delta State people and leaders to begin to think of, okay, if we had slave trade, we had a palm oil trade, we've had oil, and yes, we managed to grow our economy to where it is today in terms of size, but we can do more and even a lot more. And that's why the governor is calling us here today to say, what do we do as a state going forward? That we need to maybe begin to think of a new paradigm, new way of doing things. In my world, I have come up with a certain terminology I call Afri-capitalism, which is, or for what we're doing today, let's call it Delta capitalism. It's more of how we can redo things for maximum benefits of society. How can we make investments that will help to create economic wealth, that will create economic prosperity, as well as create social wealth for everyone? To do this, there are 4 pillars we need to build on. I'd like to share this briefly before I leave. First is what I call Africans for Africa, but I will relate it to Deltans for Delta. And so Deltans for Delta means that nobody is going to develop Delta State for us. We have to work together to develop Delta State. We have to show example. Charity, they say, starts from home. So those who are in doubt, we should begin to. It's so easy in Nigeria, in Delta, for us to criticize government. Government is not doing well, government can do this. But at times, we also fail to ask ourselves what we can do to help create a better society while making money. I'm not, but I like to make money. But I believe you make money, you can do good while you're making money. So my call is every Delta person. I like the documentary we watched, and the young man said, I don't think I'll work for government because I earn 250,000 naira a month. That is self-independence, self-sufficiency. And if I listened well to that documentary, I heard about 2.something million naira that was given, 10 million that was given, significant amounts that are not so significant to some people, but they have huge benefits to others. And these others, the micro, the small, and co. So I would like us, as we have this kind of forum, to reflect, especially the well-to-do Delta people. What are we doing to invest in the state to help show the way so that others will say, okay, if they are demonstrating confidence in their state, we too will follow. So it's one. Second one is what I call long-term investment. We need to make long-term investments, not just short-term investment of buying and selling. Long-term investments that have catalytic impact, that can truly create economic development for the state, expressed in terms of employment, in terms of poverty alleviation, in terms of higher standard of living and improved social standards. Most times, the temptation is to go short-term, because short-term this is where the economic opportunity, where you can make quick money. But the new thinking is given the way capitalism has gone in the world today, certainly short-termism doesn't work in the long run. So if we're thinking of true development, we need to look at it from the point of view of long-term sustainable investments. And so you make investment like 10 years and beyond, and have patience and watch that investment move great things. When the MC was speaking, the MC spoke about us being able to take a bank and produce or turn it to a Pan-African institution in 18 countries. But we did not start it with so much money. A little money, but we had long-term investment perspective. So again, the call to us today, across the chain, but more importantly for those who really have a lot to invest, but across the chain, when we make investments, let's look long-term rather than short-term. Let's look long-term rather than short-term. The third pillar of this Afro-capitalism or data capitalism is the kind of impact that we make as we make money. Before we were thought, or the usual boss was CSR, corporate social responsibility. Make money, then when you have made money, then address the environment of society. But this new thinking is you indeed can make even more money while simultaneously addressing the issue of society and the environment. We have seen this also practice, we've seen this work. So today I call again on those who have resources that as we plan to make money, in fact, it's even more sustainable making money in a manner that integrates the social and environmental factors so that altogether everyone will have a win-win situation. And the last point on this pillar of capitalism is creating the right environment. So the first three, to a large extent, is driven or should be driven by the private sector. The fourth one I'm about to talk about now will be driven by government, so that we'll have a proper ecosystem that leads to the right economic development. We need to have the right environment for businesses to do well. Government has a key role to play for this to happen. So we need to see government help to create the right environment in terms of infrastructure. I mean, I left Lagos almost to 10, about 20 minutes to 10 this morning, and 33 minutes we were in Asaba. So let's clap please for this. Before, I would have flown from Lagos to Benin, then Benin by road to Asaba. But this was just Lagos straight. It is this kind of infrastructure to a large extent that propels, encourages, and attracts real long-term development funding to a state. And I'll tell you part of what we're thinking of doing also in data as a result of some of this. We need to have government provide security. If some of us recall before the Niger Delta crisis, Warri was a very, very, very a booming city in Nigeria. You will talk of Lagos, Port Harcourt, Warri. But with the advent of the Niger Delta crisis, most companies took off from Warri. And so what happens is it begins to affect the economic development in that area. So government should try to help provide security so that people what led to that will not occur, so that people will feel very comfortable and do business in areas. When I was in a bank, we used to collect the internally generated revenue in Warri. It was very high. Then when the crisis started, we felt the impact because it dropped significantly, and that we all know why. So government needs to assist to do certain things, create an enabling environment in terms of infrastructure, both the hard infrastructure and the soft infrastructure. Hard as in the airport, the roads, etc. By the way, I tell people that Christmas, it took me about 55 minutes from my house in Ikoyi, Lagos, to my house, my village, my brother's house, because I don't have my own yet in the village. I spent 55 minutes because there's airport in Asaba, and from Asaba to my village the road is all good. So I'd like to commend His Excellency for this. And it's now encouraging me to build a house in the village. So we need to have all these four in place to grow an economy in a manner that is sustainable and very fundamental. What are we doing? Because I'm a data person, and therefore I cannot call on people to make investments without also showing or leading by example. We're doing quite a lot, and they will soon begin to manifest. One of our businesses, we're in oil and gas business, the Transcore Energy. We have an oil block in Burutu, a viable oil block, and we have about 5 cubic or 5, anyway, we have a lot of gas in that place. And I said to them, instead of us flaring gas, we can, again, this is the genius of iron and tyranny of all, and this again is what Africa encapsulates. We can produce oil while we do good. And so why don't we set up a fertilizer plant? And I'm happy to say that we have identified the land, we have applied, I've discovered the governor. We want to set up a $1.4 billion fertilizer plant in Burutu area of Delta State. It's going to be in Fakados. It's going to produce initially 2.4 metric tons of fertilizer annually. And the kind of time frame I've given to our partners, both our international funding partner and local and international technical partners, the Fatima Fertilizer of Pakistan, is that this government is going to end 2015. And I would like this governor to cut the tape to start it, and also to block lane and cut the tape for the production. So we're trying to bring, instead of 36 weeks, we're trying to see months, see that we can complete everything in 30 months. But we need some support from the state, especially as related to the land issue, to start to take off immediately. So that is one. Now, what would this fertilizer plant do for us? First is we need to demonstrate to the outside world that our home is safe for investment. In fact, let me say this. Soon after we signed this, about 2 weeks after we signed this agreement with the guys in London, the Danish funding partners and the Pakistani Fatima group, a fertilizer group, my mom was kidnapped. The next thing, I got a mail from these guys, said, "Are you sure Delta is the right location for this investment?" So I got back to them. Unfortunately, with the assistance of the governor, the federal level, we were able to deal with this situation very quickly, very, very professionally and quickly. And I got back to them again. I said, "What did I tell you? You know, when we begin to attract investment of this magnitude, $1.4 billion to our state, we begin to create huge confidence in the state. In fact, it's bigger than television advertisement that we can do. Because people see, they say faith cometh from hearing, from seeing. People see that, wow, 1.1 billion fertilizer put on in Niger Delta, no problem, no security issue, and it's working. A lot more people will come to invest in this state." Equally important in terms of benefits is that we have in the master scheme, we are going to put up hospital. The hospital will serve the community where it's located. We are putting up schools. It's going to serve the community where it's located. And we're having our own power production center. Our power plant will serve the plant as well as the community. So, and it brings economic development, employment, and everything to people. This is what I call Afro-capitalism. You're making profit, but you're touching lives simultaneously. And in fact, the lives you're touching will form the real security that you need. because they know you're giving them electricity, you're bringing schools to them, you're bringing hospitals to them. They will even provide you greater security because they know that if you're not there, they will suffer those facilities. This is how modern business leaders should begin to think. We also have the OLE power plant. We are one of the top runners for the OLE power plant. Currently, OLE power plant produces about 300 megawatts of electricity. Nigeria as a country, so we understand the context, is said to be producing less than 4,000 megawatts a day. We've told the federal government if we are chosen this year, between now and September, we will immediately overhaul that plant and bring production to 600 megawatts. That is first 9 months. After that, and by the way, we're in partnership with Italian company and the Symbion Power Plant of America, and we're supported by USSM Bank. The second thing we'll do is, under a period of 18 months, we will move the capacity of OLE power plant from 300 today to 1,100. And I want people to hold us accountable for this, and that's why we're saying it publicly. We have gone to check and to see that that plant has a lot more capacity. In fact, just few things affecting the ability of that plant to deliver the kind of the expected volume of power unit for the country. So that's the second thing we're doing. Third thing we're doing is we want to set up a business school in Delta State. We have just one serious business school in Nigeria, and that's the Lagos Business School. So the Tony Elumelu Foundation, we are called TF Business School. We want to set up in Delta State. We're looking at Rivers and Delta State, but most people feel it should be in Delta State, our international partners. We will come to the governor at the appropriate time for the right location for the school. But it's something, again, we would like to do and have in court detail before the end of his administration. So these are part of things. So these are part of what we are doing, because we believe that a state like Delta, that is a mini country in terms of population, in terms of geographical advantage, in terms of placement, in terms also of the size of GDP, and a state that is desirous of attracting investment into the state. We need the right business school to develop business leaders. So we have chosen Delta, and we intend to start running soon. So for us, therefore, today, as governor celebrates, or we celebrate independence, or governor is saying, no, we're economic, let's not celebrate democracy, but let's also talk about bottom-up entrepreneurship. I like to call on fellow Deltans. We indeed are endowed. I know a number of Delta people are even much more endowed than we are. Let us begin to see how we can play a role in helping Delta to even become bigger than it is today. And as Governor said, for me, it's not just about beyond oil. We should be talking of beyond extraction. We have a lot of raw material. We saw plantain, we saw everything, plantain, cassava, non-mineral resources. We need to begin to think of how to process them in this state. Our governor has a role to play here. He has a role to keep encouraging all Delta people and calling Delta people together to say, no one can develop Delta but us. I need all of you to play your role in developing Delta. Let us know what people need to develop Delta, and I'll support it. And I believe playing that role, we need to play it more with all his team. And secondly, we need to have like a road show. Maybe by the deputy governor, we need to go back to people, because we know that Delta is safe now, but the world does not know this yet. They still live in the past based on what they heard about the Niger Delta. We need to have, like, maybe deputy governor go to Lagos, speak to the Lagos business community, go to Abuja, go to different centers, and say Delta is now safe for investment. Come and invest in Delta. Thank you very much.